Thanks for tuning in to the Football Talk Squadron. I'm Dutch.
And I'm Maul.
Going into week 3 of NFL action, I'll read before I get in the trivia just because it was hilarious and we both laughed about it. And Pops isn't here, so might as well say it again. I might have a hard time reading this without laughing about it. Man, Trump sent the National Guard to Chicago. It's almost like it's Afghanistan. Bears fan. Dang, dude, it's only week 2. I was crying.
The only thing that's positive at this point was that they dominated Minnesota for the first 3 quarters of the game. Now, Minnesota's not a good football team. They might get better with Carson Wentz back there as opposed to J.J. McCarthy, which all the J.J. McCarthy homers out there hate to say it, but I told you so. But the Bears showed for the first 3 quarters of the game that they do know how to play football. Every quarter since has, proved otherwise, but they do. There is something there. Like they're. I don't know if it's just expectations are too high or what we really thought, because like the Bears are exactly who I think we all thought they were gonna be. There's a lot of holes, but like they're okay. They can be okay if they just don't panic.
What you said, we knew last year they weren't a great football team, especially in the offensive line. That right tackle has cost them games.
He's worse than football. Worse than football. He belongs on the Cincinnati Bengals.
Dude, the right tackle, because I don't care what people say. It's like, was he like everyone wants to look at a player as costing them game when it comes down to like a critical moment in the game, sort of like Stevenson last year against Washington, where he was like waving at the fans and then turned around and they didn't knock the pass down. Everyone looks at that, but it's like when you look at their right tackle, it's like these penalties put you behind the yard of the game. You're already not a great football team, and when you do things like this, it really hurts. And he misses blocks, he gets beat. It's just like everything about him is a struggle, and I feel bad for Pops because it's one of these ones that that's Stewie Griffin meme that you said.
Catches the ball, looks down, and goes, and nobody's blocking.
Dude, it's true.
Some of this is on Caleb, though. Like, I'll defend Caleb for a lot of things, but like, and that right tackle is not helping. Like you said, it's forcing Caleb to either be antsy in the pocket because he thinks he's going to get hit because he's getting used to it, or like he's getting happy feet, or they're behind the sticks, so Caleb's trying to, make up for it. But they're, in the times that Caleb does have time and has an open receiver, he's not hitting guys. And he's making some absolutely fantastic throws throughout the game, but there's just a few throws here and there that are just like, dude, you gotta have that. Like that I think this was 2 weeks ago, DJ Moore, when he was right there on the goal line and Caleb just sailed him. Like, he's done that enough times now already that it's like, dude, you are not making this easy to defend you, because that's a throw you got to have. And without those, you're never going to win a football game.
100%. Trivia. How many times did Tom Brady lose to the Bills in his career?
Four.
One off. 3.
Wow.
How many Super Bowls did Tom Brady have for the Patriots?
5.
5. That's the type of stuff you just sort of sit back and you go, ooh, well, I say that the tide has changed. Patriots are back to being what the Patriots were before Brady. The Bills look good. Kicking it off with them going against, I would say right now the worst team in football, the Dolphins. As much as I didn't think that, at least the Saints are competitive. Like, yes, the Dolphins were competitive against the Patriots last week, but you can't go back and watch that Indianapolis game and even act like that was a professional football team out there. And Vegas doesn't think so either. Vegas has Buffalo as an 11.5-point favorite right now. Like,
It's a
it's
huge line in the NFL. Huge
yes.
line.
Anytime it gets double digits, it's because you're tempted. It's like, dude, it's an NFL team. You really think it's double digits? And Vegas is like, no, dog. For us to give a more than a touchdown, because most games, like even the Packers Browns, think about it. Packers are I'd argue probably playing the best football of any team right now. It's a 7.5-point favorite against the Browns.
Yeah, I
Like,
think the Ravens were only like a 10-point favorite over the Browns last week. So for the Bills to be 11.5 over the Dolphins, it's just that's like they threw that extra 1.5 points just as the disrespect that they deserve.
yeah, if you wanted a parlay, you take the Bills and you take 2.5 over half an interception.
2 plus concussions.
Oh yeah, in CTE after the game, you want to make it a three game parlay.
In all seriousness, though, like McDaniel's on the hot seat. Like I'll be very, very shocked if he finishes the season, unless for some reason they absolutely turn it around and go on a run, which I don't see happening. He's gone before the season ends. Like, mark my words, that's what's happening. And then I think you make an argument that Tua is probably shortly thereafter, and then there's no chance Tyreek Hill's sticking around.
I don't think Tyreek makes it through. If they continue to have the struggles, I 100% in the same boat that McDaniel's gone. I think Tyreek gets traded before the end of the year, but from a cap standpoint, like they paid him a ton of money, and there's teams out there like you look at Pittsburgh, could they use him? 100%. You look at the Chiefs, could they use him? 100%. Like there's teams out there. The Chiefs make the most sense to me just because if the Dolphins are out of it, you're not going to hurt yourselves by trading to the Chiefs. It doesn't really matter. And from the standpoint of the Chiefs, you get a known guy. Like you know exactly what he's getting. Yes, you're going to pay him a little bit of money, but it's like we're at the end of the Kelsey, reign out. I know he has said he feels young. I think that this is my man's last year. Go down as one of, if not the greatest tight end in history up to this point. I think that you go all out and you make the team what it is. I think Tyreek's gone by the end of the year if it continues.
Yeah, either that they get rid of him from a cap space, or he just kind of quits on him and goes, I need to be traded. I mean, because we were basically already there last year. You know what I mean? Like the fact that he didn't get traded in the offseason, I think, was kind of like a final step. So we've already seen that there's some animosity there.
100%. On the opposite side, the Bills have looked super dominant, and especially on the offensive side, I'm still not sold on the defense. That's just it's not like Green Bay's defense where I'm sitting back and I'm like, ooh, like, which I get. Micah Parsons instantly made their defense better. Bosa's played well. He's played better than Von Miller. But from a standpoint of like, no absolute game changer having him on the line, it's not been that case for me yet.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some weaknesses there. I always try to kind of give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt when your offense is so good and so overpowered. The defense will naturally struggle because of that. Like you're on the field more. There's more opportunities for points to get scored against you. Defense is already at a disadvantage in today's game anyway, just based on how the rules are and all that stuff. So you're right. Like they're not a steel curtain by any stretch of the imagination. But again, you make an argument they don't have to be, right? Like they could get 40 points scored on them by the Ravens and still win games because you got Josh Allen on the other side of the ball.
Yeah. As long as he's healthy, the Bills have got a chance. And if they're going against the Ravens, they got a chance because somebody on the Ravens is either going to fumble or drop a 2-point conversion.
Right where we want them.
Right. Yeah.
30-point deficit.
Packers Browns. Pack, as we just discussed, 7.5-point favorites. Any argument to the Packers aren't the best team in football right now?
I think arguments can be made for still maybe even the Bills, maybe the Eagles still. Like there's definitely some teams. I still think the Ravens, I mean, we both had them as Super Bowl favorites, and I haven't changed my tune there yet. But yeah, absolutely. An argument can be made they are top 5 for sure.
The jokes that have come out, like shout out Annie Hagar, love her videos that she makes, but when she's like they're acting like Dallas and he's like, "Where is our pass rush?" And she goes right into their head coach and he's like, "He's up in Green Bay."
Yeah. They're talking about Jerry Jones doesn't know how to win a Super Bowl or doesn't know how to build a Super Bowl winning team. And they're like, yeah, he does. But then it was a picture of the Packers. Like, that's
I
Jerry
love the
Jones,
Packers
baby.
fans that paint it. Thanks, Jerry. On like next to a big painting of Micah. Like it's true. The Browns, on the other hand, I don't want to say they're not a bad football team, but it's almost like this is what happens when you have Joe Flacco, who's
Yeah,
older.
it's exactly what we expected. There's no surprises here.
Yeah. Next game, talk about a big surprise. Danny Dimes and the Colts have, dude. I sent this in a text. Right now, they are the AFC South favorites to win the division.
Oh yeah, because the Texans look rough. The Jags are just as bad as they had been. They're not doing anything super fantastic, and the Titans are working with a rookie QB. So the
who
Colts
looks good? It's just he's on a bad team.
Yeah, it's that rebuilding. They're just it is what it is. They're the situation of the Browns, like or even the Raiders, if you will. But like, yeah, Danny Dimes. He's playing out of his mind. Like, I mean, he's playing like the Giants paid him to play, but he's doing it. And the defense is good, dude. That's I think one of the underrated things. Like Danny Dimes, because of how many points they're putting up, and it's Daniel Jones, so everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!" Like that's what's getting all the attention. But the defense has been solid. It helps when you played the Dolphins week 1, so there's like some inflated stats, but like the defense is showing up when they need to show up.
I'm surprised by the 4.5 line. I would have thought at least a touchdown. I think Cam Ward is really good. It's just one of those ones that he's on a bad team. Like they're just not a complete team. You give him a few years, I think that the Titans could be competitive if they have some good draft decisions.
I chalk that up to a few things. One, Vegas is very good at not emotionally being fooled by like. Remember the Saints started 2-0 last year, and everybody was like, "Whoa, who's this team?" Like, and we, eventually we're like, "Oh yeah, okay." So like Vegas is good at keeping their like emotions in check when they do these lines. It's in Tennessee, which obviously that always skews the line towards the home team, and it is a division game, and like we've seen, just like Dallas and New York last week, like these in division games always somehow become closer than we expect them to be. So that's why I think the 4.5 line is there.
I get it. Next game up. Little did we know we'd be talking about two different quarterbacks. Bengals, Vikings. Right now, Vikings minus 2.5 point favorites. To go back to your JJ, did we sort of see this coming? Yes. This is my bigger argument, and you said this in text in terms of what the Vikings gave up. The bigger sin is not how JJ's playing. It's the fact that the Vikings let a guy that took them as well as he did last year in Sam Darnold to the playoffs. And yes, his playoff game wasn't great, but you let the dude go, and now he looks great up in Seattle. It's like that's who we should be mad at, is that the Vikings organization for, hey, you took a risk on Sam Darnold and it paid off. He looked fantastic. And then you let him go for a completely unknown proven product. Because this is my sneaky feeling. I think Wentz comes out there and tears it up against a bad Cincinnati.
He's going to do better than JJ has done, for sure. For sure. And Cincinnati's defense is the exact team that you want your first start of the season against.
Yes. Like,
because as bad as Wentz has done in his previous teams and all that other stuff, he's still a veteran. He's going to be like this Joe Flacco of like, who is my best receiver? Justin Jefferson. Throw the ball to Justin Jefferson. Wentz will do that. Justin Jefferson is unguardable. Like, and Cincinnati's defense is guardless. Like, they can't do anything to stop anybody. So
Their
I'm
offensive
with
line's
you.
also guardless.
Yeah, like the Vikings offensive line has not done amazing protecting JJ, and JJ has looked worse because he has been under pressure. So that's like the best possible, because if you could make any argument for Cincinnati's defense, it's that they've got some talent on the defensive line. But yeah, I mean, I think Wentz gives the Vikings a boost because Kevin O'Connell is a fantastic coach, and he's going to call the right game for a veteran quarterback who knows how to throw the ball to his weapons. And I think the Vikings are a sneaky good like survivor pick if you're trying to get rid of a team that you're not going to have a lot of trust in, going forward throughout the rest of the season. This is the team to do it against.
100%. On the opposite side for Jake Browning, the stat of Luck versus Burrow. Luck in the same amount of games was sacked like 165 times. Burrow has been sacked 201 times, and it's playing out the exact same. Like, he can't stay healthy because you won't invest in the line. And the problem for the Bengals is they won't invest in the team. Like, you argued so much over a first round pick and your starting defensive end who have played well this season. And it's like, look, you are literally about to lose your whole team because you won't go out and get talent for your line. Like, you made the Super Bowl. It is possible. You have Jamar Chase, you have Higgins. That's going away. Like, every NFL team, it's about a 3 to 5 year window. And once that closes, you can go get some pieces, but you have to young up. The Chiefs are seeing it right now. Do you have Mahomes? Absolutely. But the rest of the wide receivers have gotten old. Tight ends gotten old. The team's old. I just sit back and look at the Bengals and I go, if there's one thing I trust, it's that the Vikings defense should have a field day against that offense.
Well, and you make the argument of like Joe Burrow could be talent wise the best quarterback in the league. Like, there's from just a pure talent standpoint, not fantasy, not any of this. From a talent standpoint, he's arguably top 3 probably in the league, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't do it with Joe Burrow, you're definitely not doing it with Jake Browning. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter who you have talent wise back there. If you cannot protect him, you will lose football games.
And just to highlight what I think is already going to happen, the Bengals are going to be out of contention by the time Burrow is healthy to play. Burrow's done for the year.
Yeah, they're not going to bring him back just to get hurt to save a non-savable season.
It's done. So, sorry, Bengals, your season ended last week, even though you got the win against Jacks. Next game, Steelers Patriots. Right now, Pittsburgh's only a 1.5 favorite, which I think is because how bad their defense looks, especially in stopping the run. The Patriots, however, I don't want to say that Drake Mays look bad. He just hasn't had the season that I thought he would with Diggs and getting some talent around him going into the season. That sort of preseason, I thought he would do better. I think is my biggest look at the Patriots right now. What about you?
Yeah, they're kind of confusing. I think Drake May's played well. I don't have any qualms with the way he's played. Diggs not really showing up is surprising, but Booty has shown up, almost on the other side and kind of done what I thought Diggs should have done. So, like, I don't think that's kind of a wash in my opinion. I think the bigger thing for me is Vrabel. Of like, we had higher expectations for Vrabel, I think, of getting the team with the talent that they had, like in the right mindset and place, and like their defense was going to really show up and all that. And like, that's kind of been my thing of Vrabel is always this like polarizing coach, in my opinion. Like, he does things where you're like, man, he's a good coach. And then he does other things where you're like, what is that guy doing? Like, that was his whole career in the Titans. Like, there were times where you're like, man, if he just had a better team, they would be good because he's a good coach. But then he would do other things. And you're like, this is why the Titans always lose, because Vrabel makes these decisions. So that's my confusion right now of like, what has Vrabel done to like really change the team? And it feels like nothing, because they're kind of in the same boat they've been in the last few years. But I don't think the play from Drake May has really been a detriment to the team, but I I, I think the defense isn't good enough to keep up with Rodgers because Rodgers has been slinging it. Um, I think it could be close. Like I don't hate the line just because Steelers defense has shown to not be very good either. And Ramondre Stevenson was running the ball real well last week. So who knows?
Travion Henderson's been a disappointment though.
Not from a talent standpoint, it's more of a usage standpoint. I think after the preseason and kind of the hype going in and the talent that we know he has, they just haven't really used him super well. So I don't know if this is like a you're going to sit on the bench rookie because we said so type of scenario, which I could see Vrabel doing, right? Like he's that old school kind of hard nose, like you got to earn it type of deal. Um, again, I am surprised because it felt like even last season they were looking for a reason to replace Ramondre Stevenson because of his play and like kept fumbling the ball. So it felt like, hey, we finally got a guy, Travion Henderson, and then they were just like, well, we're gonna still leave it to Ramondre. So that has been a disappointment, but not from like a play standpoint. It's been his usage.
Yeah. Then you got sort of a sneaky, really good game, in my opinion. I don't know why it's not getting the hype that I thought it would. Replay of last year's playoff game, Rams at the Eagles. Right now, Phillies -3.5. The Rams have a very competitive game in them just from a passing standpoint because at no point this season have I really been enamored with Philly's defense. Like, especially when you look at it from last year to this year, I'm not sold on the defense. They did a good job against Kansas City, but I think that we put a lot of hype into Kansas City for Mahomes, but we fail to realize like their receivers, it's not that. Like no Rasheed Rice, no Xavier Worthy. It showed against Philly. But you go back to the Dallas game and you're like, dude, Dallas ate up Philly. If there's a guy that can eat them up, it's going to be Matt Stafford with Puka Nakua and those guys. What do you see going into the game?
Yeah, I mean, sneaky good game. I think it's probably one of the best on the slate this weekend. Philly's offense is a weapon from a not only are they running the ball really, really well, but because they're running the ball so well, they control the pace of the game in all the games. So they're not putting up a ton of points and it's not like super flashy, but it's just very hard from a defensive side to like just get beat up all game with them just running Saquon down your throat all the time. And then, the few times they do drop back to pass, it's usually Hurts running the ball. So it's just a tough matchup from a defensive side. Now, the Rams got a very good defensive line. And if they can shut down that run, it'll give the Rams a chance for sure.
Yeah. On the opposite side, dude, Philly's passing offense has not been there this season.
Yeah. I want to say neither has the Rams though. Like, or at least it hasn't lived up to expectation. Like with Stafford and Puka, like Devontae Adams, like it's there. It's a threat, but like it's not as good maybe as I think some people were expecting it to be. Like it was like we've got a really good defense. Now we got weapons for Matt Stafford, all the stuff. Like they are, and it could just be beginning of the year type stuck in the mud. That happens. Like people take a while to kind of get into midseason form. So who knows? I think it's a good matchup across the board. Like everybody kind of counters everybody else in all the right spots here. I think it'll be a good matchup. You made me pick. I'm picking the Eagles.
Yeah, same. Next game up, got the Jets without Fields. He's been ruled out concussion protocol. They'll have Tyrod Taylor getting the start against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. Thoughts of the game?
Dude, if Baker Mayfield is not everybody's favorite NFL player, like you're not watching football, dude. Like he's got to be like one of the most fun guys to watch, like especially knowing his story as far as like how close he was to just being like out of the NFL and to like what he's doing. My guy is an absolute dog. Like he is just a competitor and just loves to play the game. Like you can just see it, and it's so fun to root for him and watch him play. Um, I think the Jets have been playing way better football than what I was giving them credit for, Justin Fields included. Now it hurts that they don't have Fields, so that obviously plays a big detriment to them. I think it's going to be one of those where like they're probably going to put up an okay fight. The Bucks are just going to be too much for them on both sides of the ball.
The thing about Baker, the little clip of him like getting hurt, but then like CJ's was trash talking him.
Oh, you gonna talk trash?
Yeah, and he like hops up and was like, "I'll spit this right." I don't care about
I ain't
April
that
Hurts.
hurt. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just, and he's playing so well because we talked about it. We'll just throw it out there. Like you and Pops both picked the Bucks. I had the Bucks at the beginning of the week, but due to listening to everybody talk about how good the Texans defensive line was and how depleted the Bucks offensive line was, I thought Baker was just going to be under too much pressure. And it was clear that the Bucks were just a head and shoulders better team than the Texans the whole game. Like Baker did exactly what he needed to do the whole game. And I know it took a last second touchdown to win the game, but it felt like it was the Bucks game to lose watching the whole game. So I think the Bucks are just going to be too much for the Jets.
Same. Next game up, possibly they haven't ruled yet whether Jaden Daniels is going to be out going against the Raiders with Geno Smith, who, as we found out, has loved to throw interceptions with the Raiders so far this season. Washington's at home. They're a 3.5-point favorite, which signals to me they think that Jaden Daniels is going to play. Not that the Raiders are amazing, but from a standpoint of without Jaden Daniels, I think it's a completely different Washington team. What odds do you have? And just to give, in terms of a depth chart, the next guy up for the Commanders is Marcus Mariota. So
yeah, I would have said the opposite of. I think the 3.5 line shows that they think Daniels is not going to play. Because
okay.
I would have thought this would have been probably like in the 7s or 8s if Daniels is playing, and it's a 3.5 because it's probably Mariota. I don't know. I haven't seen Mariota play in, I feel like, a few years now. He's had moments of absolute brilliance, but he's had just as equally dumb moments as well. I think the Commanders are kind of in this Houston Texans type scenario right now, where they were like riding this real high from their rookie quarterback that had a fantastic rookie season. But he's come back down to earth. The team's come back down to earth, and as they're not living up to the hype for sure. Like they're not playing super fantastic football. We said at the beginning of the year, the Raiders aren't a great football team, but they're just talented enough with the right people in some places and a good football coach that they might surprise some people. They did it week 1 against the Patriots of just like, they're not a good football team. They're not going to win probably more than 8 games. They'll be lucky to get 5. But in those 5 games that they're going to win, it's going to be kind of this surprising, like, Washington needs to be on upset alert here for sure. I don't think they can pull it out. Like I think the Commanders are a better football team, but if Mariota struggles to get going, or they can't do anything, like the Raiders could possibly throw an upset on them.
Yeah, if I look at this as Wentz, like for Wentz, it's just about put the Vikings in a good chance and don't turn the ball over. Like I just need you to
steer the Lamborghini, don't push the gas.
Dude, 100%. Same thing for I think Mariota has more on his shoulders just because the defense isn't as good as it was last year. I think Bobby Wagner's regressed again. I mean, Hall of Fame linebacker, but old. And they need help on the defense, and they're not going to get it this year. Unless they go out and make some huge trade, which they were never going to get Micah because Jerry at least was smart enough to not trade in his own division. I just sort of sit back and look at him and I go, if you're Mariota, you do need to at least push on the gas pedal a little bit I just don't need you to turn the ball over. If they cannot put the Raiders in good positions, they'll have a good chance at putting away the Raiders.
It'll depend on Kingsbury. You know, he needs to call a good enough game for the talent he's got. They have the same skill set, so that helps. You know, Daniels being a running quarterback, Mariota used to be a pretty good running quarterback, so like he's got some skill set there. He's got the talent around him with McLaurin and Debo. I think it's going to come down to really the Raiders side of the ball. Can Geno throw the ball like we've seen him throw the ball and not make turnovers? And then can they run it with Genty? Because that running game has been absolutely stuck in the mud right now. And if they can't run the ball and it makes the Raiders one-dimensional, that's going to be the difference for me.
I do want to throw out, because we talked about it and watched the highlights of the first half. Genty's still a good back. I mean, he ran over that Chargers guy. Like, don't get too negative. I know, this is where the negativity comes from with Genty. It comes from one thing. It's fantasy football. Guys draft him in the first round. They're like, oh, he's not a good back, because they're not seeing the fantasy production, and that's not he's a good back.
Yes.
He's just behind a bad offensive line. Like,
I mean, it's the same thing with Burrow. Like, it doesn't matter how much talent any of the positions have. We all know that the game is won in the trenches. And if your offensive line sucks or your defensive line is wet paper, it doesn't matter what kind of skills you have on the outside. You're going to lose games. So, like, if you can't run the ball because they can't block anybody, Barry Sanders is arguably the best running back in history. I mean, and they had a terrible offensive line. They were a terrible football team. Barry Sanders was the only good thing about that team. So, like, it doesn't matter who you are back there. You're not going to win enough games to be competitive if you don't have a good line to block.
1,000%. Next game up, Falcons, Panthers. Atlanta's minus 5.5 point favorites. Very justified in that. Panthers, they tried to mount a comeback last week. It just fell short. Bryce is throwing the ball well. Like, if I watched the game last week, he's putting it on guys. Guys are dropping the football. This is where I just want to point this out. The Browns failed Baker Mayfield, but who failed him even more than the Browns, was the Carolina Panthers lining the man up at defensive end. Yes, like, I sit back and look at that and I'm just like, it like gets overblown, that photo. Like, we don't even think about it. And it's like, and I look at the Panthers last year, they trade up to go get Xavier Legette, and he has not produced. Like, he's not a first round pick. And it's like, you cost yourself capital to go get somebody that wasn't that guy. The Panthers continue to make organizational decisions in the draft that hurt the team. Now, yes, they went out and got McMillan. Great pick. Like, he looks to be the part. But due to drafting Xavier Legette and not getting someone else, you could have got someone else that made the team better. They're not there. And that's my heartburn with the Panthers. I think eventually, probably next year, will be Bryce Young's last, and they'll move on. Just because that's what NFL teams do. Bryce is going to be probably going underneath a third head coach next year. And it's like, the kid's not made to succeed in that organization.
Yeah, it's tough just because, like you said, he's not playing bad. He's also not like super fantastic by any stretch of the imagination. So,
yes,
you know, he's not doing himself any favors there. There's just too many holes. That being said, this feels like a different Falcons team than years of past, but leave it to the Falcons to like lose some game like this and totally screw up, you know, their momentum. But they have been playing pretty decent football. Like, Penix is playing out of his mind. Bijan is arguably one of the best running backs in football. Like, the defense has really stepped up. Those draft picks have really, you know, earned their paycheck for where they got drafted. But again, history tells you, like, the Falcons do silly things sometimes. They should win this game handedly, but you know, you never know in these in-division games. I've got the Falcons.
Same. You said this, and I think it's a very good point from a standpoint of, like, is Saquon the best running back in the pro football right now? I'd argue yes. But from a standpoint of, it's because he meld so well with that offense, but from like a versatility standpoint, Bijan's probably the best guy in terms of pure versatility of what you can do with him. Like the dude's lethal out of the backfield. Same as Saquon, but like, dude, you could line. I haven't seen Saquon in the slot. Not saying that he couldn't. I think he's more than capable of it. But they do use Bijan in the slot, and it's just a nightmare to linebacker because it's like guarding that dude in open space. Good luck, my man. Like
when Saquon goes out on routes and catches balls, he looks like a running back catching a football. Like Bijan is like just looks athletic. He looks like he could play any position. Like Saquon, a fantastic running back. That's why he's a running back. But if when he lines up on the outside and runs routes, he looks like a running back. Which again, that's not. He's an athletic freak, so he's still a matchup problem. But that's I think the difference there. It's like CMC. CMC could play any position. Back in CMC's prime, which he's doing great, but like CMC could play any position on the football field because he's just that athletic and talented.
Yeah. All right. You have to, this question, frame of reference, just this season. Okay. Who looks worse, Trevor Lawrence or CJ Stroud?
I think CJ Stroud.
And I think Vegas thinks so too. Jags are minus 1.5 point favorites, which I get there at home should be a little bit higher. But dude, the Texans, that Monday night game against the Bucks, CJ Stroud looked terrible.
This is what I was talking about with Jane Daniels, like with we're still all riding the high of CJ Stroud's rookie year, and he kind of did this last year. Now they got away with it because the rest of that division was terrible, so they still won the division. But like, they're not the football team that they were 2 years ago when Stroud was a rookie. Like Stroud is not playing well. He's not throwing the ball well. He's not moving well. It's difficult for them to run the ball. Like Woody Marks, I think, looks better than Nick Chubb from a running standpoint. Like I know Chubb got that long breakaway touchdown right there at the end. Some people were making arguments that like the Bucks let him score. I don't know how true
he
that
looked
is.
like he was running in mud all night.
Yeah, it was just like there was nothing momentum wise. Like they're not a super great football team.
Yeah, especially on the offense. Like they let go of Laramie Tunsil, and it shows. Now at the same time, CJ Stroud, you pointed out. I mean, he just took some sacks that you were like, could you just move a little bit more in the pocket? Like, please help us out just a little bit. Like, something.
He looks like Dak did after he hurt his knee. Remember, like Dak used to be pretty mobile, and then after Dak got hurt, he just like wasn't moving. Like there was just something there where you're like, why aren't you moving? What are you doing? So I don't know if Stroud's dealing with something or if he thinks his protection is better than it is, but like there were times where his feet were just stuck in mud. He wasn't moving at all.
Yeah. It was a tough watch. I think the Texans dropped 0-3. I've got the Jags in the game.
That's a tough one because I also don't think the Jags are like a super good football team either, especially on the defensive side. But it feels like they have more weapons right now. Like ETN is finally woken up from last year. They've kind of committed to him. I mean, again, I still don't think Lawrence is amazing, but I think he's playing better than Stroud. Like it's in Jacksonville. Like that's a tough one. The Texans moving to 0-3 feels most unlikely, but I've got the Texans. But I won't be surprised if the Jacks do win. Like I won't be like, oh, I can't believe that happened.
Next up, my sort of sleeper upset is Broncos Chargers, which I know it's not a big upset. They've only got them 2.5 point favorites. I just feel like this is, for me, this is one of those games like for the Chargers. I think the Chargers have the talent to win. But Khalil Mack's, luckily he didn't break anything. It's just going to be out for a little bit, not the rest of the season. I just sort of like the Broncos in this game. Like I feel like the Chargers are riding this high. Like, hey, we got 2 straight wins. We just beat the Chiefs. We beat the Raiders. We're going to beat our 3rd AFC West division opponent, the Broncos, and this is sort of the game that I can see the Broncos coming out and having a good game against the Chargers. I don't like the Chargers run offense, which is crazy after last year. Like Herbert looks amazing, but Amari and Hampton and Najee Harris don't look like the same guys to me. Who do you got in the game?
I got the Chargers. I think the Broncos. I think the Broncos have kind of fooled some people. They had some very good games last year and played some teams really well, and I think we all focused on that. And I don't think they're a bad football team, but what I've seen so far this season is that they're not this. Those one-offs last year is what I think they were, is one-offs. I think there's that potential, but like from a what are you probably going to be like on average, and I think it's what we're getting. Like they're going to win some football games for sure, but they don't have the offensive firepower. Bo Nix is not really playing super well. Their defense is pretty solid, and you're right. I'm not in love with the Chargers' run offense right now, but it's one of those, like, I feel like it doesn't matter because Herbert is playing out of his mind. And I just don't think the Broncos can keep up with that.
The only thing that gives me pause in their offense was the 3 points they put up in the second half against the Raiders. I'm just like, that game should have been 35-6, you know?
It should have. And I don't know. I would love to see the stats on this, but it was also like at 10 o'clock at night, which by the time they're playing the second half, it's like midnight. You know what I mean? Now, it's West Coast teams, so it's not that late for them, but like, I didn't see the game. I didn't see the second half. I didn't see past the first quarter because I was asleep because it's midnight. You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes that plays a little bit into it of just like the timing of the game. And again, I know they're professionals. I know they do this for a living, so it's probably not as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be, but it was just
you say that, but the team that arrives in London first wins.
Yeah. It plays it's a factor.
Next game up. Saints Seahawks. Seattle's minus 7.5 point favorite. We talked about it earlier in regards to the Vikings. Sam Darnold looks good. Like, they've played well. Seattle right now, I'd argue, could easily win the division. Like,
they've proven it. I mean, they can 100%.
Saints, on the other hand, haven't been as bad as I thought they were.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler's kind of holding his own. They're still not a great football team. They're kind of, like you said, they're competitive, and that's really all you can ask for at this point. They're doing what they need to do to kind of stay in games. Now it's still only week 2, so things might get figured out. But yeah, I think the line says it all. I think we're both on the Seahawks, but you're right. Like, we're just trying to talk good about the Saints for the fact that we thought they were going to be the absolute floor mat, and they are playing better than that. They're exceeding expectations.
I will say, when in your terms of figure it out, I think teams are going to figure the Saints out, and it will get worse for the Saints in terms of competitiveness as the season goes on. I think that what teams start to do, they just sit back and you go, Alvin Kamara's not going to beat us. We're going to make Spencer Rattler throw the ball 30 times this game. And if he slings it, and looks like he did against Tennessee that one year, by all means, they'll be competitive. But there were plenty of games last year that said he ain't that. So we'll see what we get.
Which, on that note, Kellen Moore is doing all right. Like, I think he's maybe not getting enough credit. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe that's the piece that everybody's missing of, like, we thought the Saints were going to be so... maybe Kellen Moore is doing all right.
Yes. And I look the same as the Colts with Steichen. It's like, I think people forget that when he had the Journey guy came out of Washington State.
Gardner
Minshew. They were a good team. They were one play away on a fourth down from winning that game and winning the division, going to the playoffs. Like, Steichen knows how to coach. He left the Eagles. Like, he made Jalen Hurts what Jalen Hurts was, and gave them that offense. He knows how to coach an offense. That's the reason I just sort of sit back and I look at what is happening with Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes has a good talent. He's a talented guy. That's the reason he went in the first round. He went to a terrible organization in the Giants who paid him too much, put too much pressure on him, wouldn't pay other guys, drafted bad, put him in a bad position. They had to get rid of him. Now he's with Indy, and it's like, oh, looks good. Why? He did the same thing with Gordon Minshew. Like, he has talent. Yes, I sit back and I go, in this case, 100%. You can't sit back and knock Kellen Moore. He did the same thing with Dak, made them look good. Goes up to Philly. They look amazing. You know what? Philly threw the ball a lot better last year with Kellen Moore than they are this year. Just saying. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think it's a very valid point. Kellen Moore definitely needs a little bit more props than the 0-2 record is showing, especially from a competitive standpoint. Speaking of not competitive, sorry, Pops.
Womp womp.
Bears versus the Cowboys. I don't know how Dallas is only a 1.5 point favorite in this game. I get it. What you said at the beginning, did they have a good first half against Minnesota? Yes. If anything, I sort of look at that like the Texas-Ohio State game. Like, did Ohio State beat Texas? Yes. Look good. You're like, oh, you held them to 7 points. But every week since then, we've been like, yo, I don't think Arch Manning's that good. I sit back and look at the Bears, and it's like, you look at the first game, you look at last week's game, and you're like, dude, I get it was against the Lions. Totally understand. Lions came out. You called it. It was going to be this huge overreaction week 1 against the Packers. They look bad. Everyone's going to be like, Lions are terrible. Very next week, it's like 50-something points. God bless. They're already dead. Stop beating them. I just sort of sit back and I go, if Detroit's offense can have that type of success against the Bears, then the Cowboys are going to put up points as well.
I said Vegas is pretty good at like not overreacting. This feels like an overreaction from them of just like, whew, if they had to take the Giants to overtime, the Bears are, it's weird that it is only a 1.5 point favorite. That is because I haven't seen the Bears put an entire football game together yet since Caleb Williams been drafted.
Agreed.
Pops might disagree. He might point to some places where they have put together complete football games, but I haven't seen it.
I will say I like what Ben Johnson said after this week during a press conference. He was just like, we haven't been practicing the way we need to in order to win games, which I don't know who he's calling out, whether it's Caleb Williams or whoever, but I think Ben Johnson knows what it takes after bringing Detroit to where they're at. He knows what it takes to be a good football team. He's not getting that. And you could tell he's super frustrated, like with just the overall team. I think they have pieces, like we've talked about, worst right tackle in football right now is the Chicago Bears. The defense being out corner wise, Jalen Johnson is now out, for weeks. That doesn't help when your best corner's not there.
It's best guy on defense.
It kills your team. So, yeah, I would smash the Dallas -1.5 line just because I don't see how the Bears stay in the game offensively against the Cowboys. Next game up, Cardinals, 49ers. How you feel about Mac Jones being 2-0?
It's possible. I mean, we've talked about the Cardinals of just like they're kind of this middle of the road, love to play to their opponent's talent type of football team. They haven't shown anything super fantastic on either side of the ball. They're doing what they need to do to win the games. So that's definitely a positive for them. Like I think it'll be a good divisional game. I don't know. I think it's going to come down to like what kind of game gets called, from both sides of the ball. Like I think they got two good coaches on both sides that know how to scheme for the players that they have. So the best thing for the Cardinals is that they're not the ones facing Mac Jones first. They saw a game with Mac Jones as the starter, so they can prepare for it. It's possible. It's really possible. It's like, do I think what's more improbable? Mac Jones starting 2-0 or the Cardinals staying undefeated? Those both seem equally unprobable. I don't know what else to say about that.
If I had to pick anyone, it's the Niners just because of their defense. I like the Niners defense against the Cardinals offense more than I like the Cardinals defense against the 49ers offense. Because at the end of the day, the 49ers still have, as of right now, a healthy Christian McCaffrey. And as long as that's the case, the Niners are going to be in games.
I, I don't. I just they almost let the Saints come back last week. Like
I know.
it was. They had. It felt almost like a Bears scenario where like they were handedly winning the game. It didn't feel like they were any threat of losing the game, and they almost gave up. And it was like, hey, still playing a football game. Like Saints score a touchdown. You're like, hey, like still in the game. Like there's still time on the clock. Like don't give up here. So, and I think this you could make a very solid argument that the Cardinals are a much better team than the Saints, especially since they already beat them this season. So
100%.
they, maybe that's what keeps the Niners engaged the whole game, and they're able to play it. But I think it'll be a good matchup.
Sunday night game. Chiefs Giants. Chiefs minus 6.5 point favorites. Call me crazy. I don't like the Chiefs defense against what we saw last week against if Russell Wilson can throw like he did last week, I think the Chiefs are going to have their hands full covering the wide receivers.
I think that was a one-off from the Giants. Like Russell Wilson's kind of known for that, but that seemed like just such an unsustainable. Sometimes dudes just get in these rhythms and kind of lucky in some certain cases that it's able to look like that. I don't see that happening again from the Giants.
You pointed out the stat that I didn't know, which is Kansas City's last week loss did what for Patrick Mahomes? It was the first time in his career what had happened?
First time Patrick Mahomes has ever lost 3 straight games in his career. And you're like, they're only 0-2. Yeah, but he lost the Super Bowl last year, and now he's 0-2 here. That, I think, goes to show just kind of how far Kansas City has regressed from they're not this amazing dominant team. That being said, they've also played 2 solid opponents, week 1 and week 2. So you don't give them a pass, but like the Giants are not either one of those teams. You know what I mean? So I don't see it happening. Like,
I'm not picking the Giants.
Okay,
I'm picking the Chiefs. I think that by the touchdown favorite, I think that people think that the entire game will just sort of be the Chiefs. I can see the Giants being competitive in the first half. Like,
yeah, that's fair.
I can see them sticking around, and I could see them winning at halftime. Like, people being like, Chiefs going to go 1-3, and then Mahomes will take over. Kansas City, what you said, Kansas City isn't as good of a team that we've seen in the past. I do agree, one off for the Giants. You can't sit back and also not look at the opposite end of the fact that they gave up over 30 points to Dallas. They had the game to throw a Hail Mary and hit it. And then 30 seconds later, granted, that kicker was kicking
Brandon
60-yard plus.
Yeah.
I already saw people being like, who knew Dallas's best player was their kicker? But I like the Chiefs. Chiefs in the game. Game of the week. Thank God. Monday Night Football just stacking up teams. Lions, Ravens.
I don't know why, but every time I see this matchup, I cannot get out of my head what the Ravens did to the Lions. Was it 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
When they just absolutely boat raced them. I was like 33-0 right out of the gate. Like I see this matchup, and as good as I do still think the Lions are, I cannot get that game out of my brain, and I just feel like the Ravens can dominate.
The Lions defensively have Aiden Hutchinson, but I think they've played above the guys that they have on the roster. I don't like either one of their linebackers. And I think it's going to show this game against Henry and against Lamar. and their secondary is still the same as it was last year. Like, has Terry and Arnold gotten better? Yes, but are they handsy? Do they catch a bunch of flags? Yes, and you can't do that against a Ravens team. Like, you can't extend drives. You can't give them an easy 10 yards. To beat the Ravens, you got to earn it every single down. I'm in the same boat with you. I've got the Ravens in the game just because I don't like Detroit's defense against the Ravens. I like their offense against the Ravens a lot. Do I think it's going to be 35-0 like it was a few years ago? No. But from a standpoint of, do I think that the Lions have a good chance of slowing down the Ravens? Also, no. But I appreciate the matchup. I'd rather watch this than like Jets Bengals.
Yeah, Bengals Vikings needs to be flexed to 4 a.m.
Dude, what a absolute tweet fire from that dude that posted that. God, that was great. But I'm guessing you got the Ravens as well.
Yeah, I do. I just you talked about Detroit's defense. It's not surprising. Like, even as good as Aaron Glenn did with that defense, like, that's been the Lions' defense for the last 3 years. Like, that has been what they. Now, having Aiden Hutchinson makes them better, right? We kind of thought that if they had them in the playoffs last year, they would have won, but they didn't. And throughout the season, like, that's kind of always been what the Lions' defense is.
And it's like, who's offense better, the Ravens or the Packers?
Offensive wise, I think the Ravens are.
Yeah, and the Packers had their way with that Chicago or with the Detroit defense week 1.
The only thing that really gives me pause, and I think this is fluky, was like Derrick Henry had like 27 yards rushing against the Browns of all people. So
I think you nailed why that happened, though.
Yeah, I kind of said it felt almost like they thought Lamar got shorted last year with the MVP. They thought he should have won it, which they have an argument for it, but Josh Allen won the MVP. They come out week 1 to get their revenge, and it ends up biting them in the butt, and they come back and win. You know, the Bills win the game to all people of Josh Allen. So they felt like spited for some reason, and they were just like, we need to boost Lamar's numbers for like an MVP voting standpoint. This is total, I'm just making it up. I'm pulling it out of thin air. But watching the game, it just felt like that. Like, there was no reason when the Ravens were up like 30 points with like 4 minutes left, they're throwing 27-yard bombs to the end zone. You're just like, what is happening right now? Like, what was going on? Now, I was paying more attention to it because the guy I was playing in fantasy had Lamar Jackson. So it was cutting a little deeper for me. But at the same time, you're like, for real, like, what are you doing right now? Why aren't you just running the ball and killing this game? Who knows? But if there is a blueprint to beat the Ravens, if you can shut down that run and then hope Lamar has a bad passing game, that's kind of the best you can hope for at that point.
But if they can't stop Henry, it's over.
No, nobody. It doesn't matter who you are.
Josh Allen. They gave him 170
Josh
yards.
Allen.
Now, Henry did cost them because it was the fumble that really allowed him to get back. The Ravens had the game. They had the game. 4 minutes ago, it was I always like that ESPN matrix of, it was a 99.1% chance that they were going to win the game.
Yep.
And that fumble went from there straight on down. Yep. See ya. Now you gave the Bills exactly what they needed. So that wraps up going into week 3. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. We'll follow you guys up after week 3, going into week 4. Time Pull Chalks. We'll see you guys next week.
Peace.